The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster by, good afternoon. 7 minutes after 12 midday. We're open line on Mannin Line this Thursday lunchtime. Just a quick word in from Mark, who said, warn your listeners of scammers purporting to be Isle of Man Bank Fraud Department. They are the fraud, apparently. I had a call from a very plausible young man last night. The number they give you to call back begins with 0203, so don't do it, says Mark. You get a call purporting to be the Isle of Man Fraud Department. Well, tell them to... anyway, also, there's a meeting and a get-together regarding the planning for the Sunken Gardens. There's a proposed skateboard park that the corporation are planning for the Sunken Gardens. I think it's later on this week. Thank you, Trish, for that. The information is for the proposed changes for the Sunken Gardens. There's a meeting 11:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Saturday and Sunday at the Strand Shopping Centre. If you want to voice your opinions and find out more, 11:30 to 3:30 Saturday and Sunday at the Strand Shopping Centre. Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. I saw that advertised last week, and it's presented by the company that have done the design work, so they're going to have a bias towards there.
Oh, crikey, yes. Well, They're getting paid.
Yes. Whether there be any council people there or not, I do not know, but it's presented by the people who are designing the whole system. So obviously they're going to run ahead for their ideas.
Yeah, but I mean, it will be interesting if people don't agree with it, just to go along and say so and tell them, because they presumably, as they're being paid, think everybody's entirely for it.
Well, I seriously doubt it whether they are, but again, as I said yesterday, if you don't shout, it's the wheel that squeaks the loudest that gets the grease. But those gardens where they're proposing, now I don't know which is which. I agree with it. It does need a children's play area, and the old boating pool was ideal. But they've gone over the top with gardens 5 and 6, and their stupid idea of putting a quiet area next to a skateboarding session. Now, one contradicts the other. You can either have the skateboards or you can have a quiet area, and the quiet area already exists. It's called number 5 or number 6 garden. But if they're going to put a skateboard area there, the walls of that particular patch are going to have to come down, because you can't have somebody tearing up and down the ramps on a skateboard with walls either side. Not the stone walls that exist at the moment. And they're all stone from many, many years ago, 1930s, building stone, as they call it, and that's hard to get a hold of now. It's expensive. But where would they do it? They just dump it, because they don't seem to think ahead of these things. Yes, that meeting down there is... you may get the odd one from the council, but... it's primarily by the people who are designing it.
Well, the thing is that there seems to be a demand for a skate park. And remember, skateboarding it's an Olympic sport now. And, there's a Winter Olympic equivalent in snowboarding as well. So we may have a star of the future somewhere on the Isle of Man. So let's give them somewhere to go. But as you say, it has to be in context with everything else. If it fits,
there's a skate park. There's a skate park up Nobles Park. And they go up there, and it's not overly used. And it's all fenced. It's on the old tennis courts.
Yeah.
And, half a mile away or 3/4 of a mile away, they're going to build another one. So, what is the sense in it? And they're talking not of just a couple of quid. They're talking of $1.5 million, which is going to be around the ratepayer's neck for the next, 30 years. That's only what they're borrowing. What's the interest on it?
And the other thing that prompts me is I don't want to make myself a hostage to fortune, but is the thing going to be fenced off at night because there are licensed premises close by?
Yep. Well, they're going to have to have some form of security, lighting, and you can imagine what the graffiti is going to be like down there. It's going to make the place look like a tip, with all the takeaway foods, etc., just dumped. I dread to think. Well, my heart is in those gardens because I've said to you before that's where I started my apprenticeship with Douglastown Parks Department in 1959. Believe it or not, I started my apprenticeship there, and those gardens are very dear to my heart because they had great pride in them, and people used to admire them, and they would sit there, and people in the offices could come out, or even if they're in town, and sit in the gardens.
Well, it's the big thing now, Howard. Mindfulness, they call it. Mindfulness, to sit in amongst nature is very good for your mental health. There's some nice areas where the council have put these wildflower patches. They are nice. Douglas Head, you'll see one from your window. There's one at the Groves Road end, 2 or 3 others. They're going around planting them, yet they want to destroy 2 perfectly good gardens that are on the promenade that already exist. Who's thinking what and when within the council? It seems to be like a dog chasing his tail. Okay, all right.
But what I actually come on for until you introduced that about the gardens, yesterday Tony was talking about, go back to the conger eels.
Oh, crikey, yeah.
Yeah, well, the conger eel and the, rock salmon,
yeah,
they were 2 different fish because the rock salmon, I remember the time, they used to call it rock salmon simply because the flesh on that particular fish, when you take the skin off, is like bands of white, pink, white, pink, white, pink.
Right.
There are no bones in it because it's from the shark family. And the actual name, it is a spur dog. And it's very popular, and the local fishermen used to catch it off here, but the price was never good, so the boys used to take it across to Fleetwood, and they got a better price over there. But on the back of the fish, just behind the head, is rather a vicious spike. That's where the name comes from.
Okay, Howard, just wait there 1 minute because I got a phone call about this on the answer phone yesterday.
Hello, Andy. This is Ronnie, by the way. It's just a quickie, really. They were talking of conger eels as in the chip shops, etc., as rock salmon. But in fact, it was the spur dogs, and they nearly got fished to extinction. But they're well on the way back now. But they're a pest when you get them in the boat because you've got to watch you don't get one of those spurs in your leg because it's just like a nail, very strong, very sharp. Anyway, I just thought I'd let you know that. The other thing, quickie, in Tainholt, when I lived in Scotland for a while, they were smoking eels, but I was always under the impression they were freshwater eels, but I could be corrected on that one. Anyway, thanks very much. Okie doke. Bye.
Okay, that's Ronnie Clucas. Is he right, Howard?
Yes. Yeah, they are of the shark family, and there was loads and loads of them around the island here, and as he just said, they gradually got fished out near enough. They're on the way back now, but they're a lovely fish because, as you know, I work for Manx Petroleums, and I used to put, the other lads used to put fuel on board the fishing boats here, and we always got what was called a feed. And we used to get a lot of spur dog, and I've still got the hook on the wall at the back of the house where you could take the skin off like skinning a rabbit. You just cut round the whole of the head and then peeled it off, and that fish underneath the skin was lovely, and it was pink. And that's where the rock salmon come in, and they had to change the name by law because of the definition of it. But it's still available, and still, well, it is a nice fish, but I don't know whether you'll see it in the shops or not, but I don't know what they call it these days. They certainly wouldn't be rock salmon, but it is a dogfish, and you can catch any amount of them up at the point of air. But as Ronnie said there, you have to be extremely careful because the spur on the back of the fish was anything up to an inch, maybe even 2 inches if they're a serious sized fish. and they could do a lot of harm to your legs, hands, or otherwise.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Howard.
Okay, take care. Bye now.
Good to hear from you. And Wilf's on now. Hi, Wilf.
Hi. Howard has just told you something I was going to tell you, but I've got plenty more here.
Yeah.
Now, freshwater eels, they are the ones that go to the Sargasso Sea.
Yeah.
They're the ones that do the jelly eels with and the smoked eels. They go to the Sargasso Sea to breed, then they die. And the babies, or the fry, drifts over on the currents back to the rivers. When they turn into little eels, they swim back to the rivers they were actually born in. And people used to gather them up and eat them. That's got that out of the way. Now, eating conger eels, as I said the other day, down in the north here, they used to go out on the sandbanks and set lines for the white conger eel. They reckoned that was better for eating. That's that out of the way. Now, Howard said the other day that the conger eel was vicious. Well, he is vicious, but he's all right as long as you leave him alone. He only gets vicious if you put your hand or your foot near his mouth when he's in the boat or whatever, but he won't normally bother you down on the seabed. Apart from, I knew a helmet diver, the old-fashioned divers with the brass helmet on, when they used to work on the Queen's Pier. Now, I asked them about conger eels and things down there, and it was full of them down there when the Berthen Head was still up. And he said that the only thing that's bare down there is your hands, unless you're wearing gloves, which is awkward for some of the jobs you got to do. And he said, if you come and you're working near conger eels, he said, they're looking out of the hole, he said, and they're watching your white hands. And he says, just to be sure, we used to send up send a trident down. Now, a trident is the fork that you used to see on the old-fashioned penny.
Yeah.
Neptune's fork. And he said we used to stick that in them and let them fight with that all day. Another amusing thing he said to me when he was down there, he said, you had to hang on to if you were sawing a piece of wood down there, you had to make sure you hang on to the piece that you wanted, or when you've cut it off, it's gone. It's floated to the surface. Now, Orsted, they want to build these windmills on the Bahama Bank, and the reason for that is it's shallow, so they don't have to go so deep under the water to do these things.
How deep is Bahama Bank, Wilf?
Well, I've been told by an old fisherman that he once touched the bank. They say that some tides, the very biggest tides, and you got the right place, you could actually get off and walk on it. I've been told that by the lifeboat men. But an old fisherman told me he once touched the bottom with a 16-foot oar out of a boat when the tide is low.
Yeah.
So you're pretty shallow when instead of going down a sort of 100 feet to put your foundations in and all the rest of it.
Well, the thing is, if a 16-foot oar would touch the bottom, some of their bases will be out of the water.
Well, that's just the way it is anyway. That's the way the old fisherman told me. And the thing is, the Bahama Bank goes right across Ramsey Bay. And so you can get a lot on there without going too deep.
Yeah.
Now, we're discussing it in the commissioners at the moment, but first, I would have nothing to do with it, apart from, unless they gave us the whole Isle of Man free electricity. If they can do that, they can build as many as they like, because I'll not be here that much longer. Anyway, the other thing was, Poyll Dooey is in the news again. This spine road, which is solid, and that's to keep the river water and the seawater out of from flooding in.
Yeah.
But there is a springs in there inside the spine road, which is solid. Now, I went and had a look in the architects at the plan, and it showed you the spine road, and I asked the fellow there, I said, now, when it rains outside the spine road, it rains inside the spine road. Oh, well, what we're going to do for that, we're going to put a pipe through the spine road with a door on. And we're going to let the water out. I've never heard such tripe in my life. But that's what they said they wanted to do. We'll build houses in there, but if it starts with the water, we're going to let the water out. So, anyway, that's all I got to tell you.
Thanks, Will. And by the way, have you ever eaten eel?
No. No intention of eating eel.
Have you ever eaten rock salmon?
No, but I've caught lots of it, okay. And that's one of the things I was going to say on the radio, that the rock salmon was that used to be sold in the chip shops across, where we always had cod and chips here, or haddock and chips here, or plaice and chips here. It was the cheap feeding for the cross. But whether they had the other stuff as well to sell, I don't know.
Okay.
But I don't record that it's ever been sold here in a chip shop.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Wilf.
All right.
Cheers now. 23 minutes past 12. Did it? I'm trying to remember. Wasn't there a prequel of Only Fools and Horses called Rock and Chips? Did they ever serve rock and chips on the Isle of Man? Got a sad photo in from 535. L says some vandalism at Silverdale. It would have needed a couple of strong people. Somebody's thrown the picnic bench into the river in Silverdale. Crikey, why would you do that? Regarding the Promenade Gardens, there's a need for a good quality play area for children, but the other areas should be left as is. Douglas City Council should be focusing on lobbying to and collaborating with central government to provide a proper surface for the walkway and the continuation of the horse tram tracks to the sea terminal as previously approved. To do otherwise is fiddling while Rome burns. Do some proper political work. Stop the vanity project, says Dave in Douglas. We haven't really heard from Douglas councillors as to what they think about the horse trams, or whether or not there is a corporate view from Douglas City Council of what to do with the horse trams. Jill's with us now. Hi, Jill.
Oh, hello, Andy. You know, I've been banging on about a play area in Douglas for 3 years now, and my granddaughter, it's too late for me and my granddaughter, because she started school yesterday. She's nearly 5.
It's weird how time, you suddenly blink and time goes, and that play area used to be Andy. So popular, didn't it?
And why did they pull it down? All we had was a few swings, a slide, and we were very, very happy. And now some poncy architects come along and want a skateboard park. My friend was knocked over by a scooter last year, elderly lady. They come tearing down past Davison's on their scooters. Now look what's going to happen. Skateboards, how old are they? 9, 10, 11? They'll go through town in their skateboards.
Well, I mean, right next to it, remember, Jill, is going to be a very big walkway on the promenade. So there's going to be a big walkway. Now, I'm not saying it will happen.
We'll get knocked over there as well then. Whoop-de-whoop. Whoop-de-whoop. We'll get knocked over there as well. Children do not stay in the skateboard park. We have one at Nobles Park. We have a splash area at Nobles Park. We don't need water. Mothers with babies and toddlers don't need water. A baby can drown in 2 inches of water and they get very wet. Let them go up to Nobles Park and get wet. Who are these people? They need to borrow money as well. They've been given £195,000 from taxpayers' money to build this poncy skateboard park. It's next to the main road. When is an 11-year-old going to get run over then? Where do they get these ideas?
Well, presumably,
we don't have any money.
Presumably the skateboard park designers, the architects and the manufacturers will have been contacting them. It's a numbers game. They'll go round every council until somebody says, oh, we'd like one of those.
But we have one. Newsflash, everybody, Isle of Man, who don't have any funds left. We have a skateboard park and we have a splash area. We just need a few swings and something to climb on. Well, is it so everyone can come to the island and say, oh, we have another splash park? And people will get knocked over. Those children won't keep those skateboards under their arms until they get into that park area. They will go through town, get an ice cream from Davison's and knock us all over. My friend was very, very injured, and the boy didn't even have courtesy. He turned around briefly and went on his merry way, very, very quickly on his scooter. And this will happen on the skateboards. It will happen.
Okay.
So mark my words, everybody.
All right. Well, I've written that down. It's the 5th of September. Jill's warned us.
Thank you very much. And it's my birthday on Sunday, so thank you for wishing me a happy birthday.
Very happy birthday on Sunday as well.
I don't get knocked over by a scooter.
Enjoy your cake. Okay.
Thank you, Andy.
068 says to Mannin Line, the good thing about living in a small community, we warn each other very quickly about scammers. Just be aware of somebody phoning you. And again, that's just a numbers game. They're just sitting there with a computer programming, and they're saying they're from the Isle of Man Fraud Detection Squad. Well, in fact, they are the fraud. Why put a skate park on the Promenade? There's one in Nobles Park. Again, 068. Surely people want to have peace and quiet when sitting in the gardens. Not a good idea. A skate park at Nobles again, this is 109, and a paid one at Tremode. There's one in Laxey as well, just to provide easy work for the architect and the contractors, says this correspondent. Is Nobles Park skate park hardly used? Says Phil out west. I don't know. If you go to Nobles Park, if you are a skateboarder or know somebody who is, then... is it used? Is it particularly good? What happened to the one in Ramsey on the Murrock, by the way? That went very quiet, didn't it? Skateboarding's really popular. I mentioned, it is an Olympic sport. It's a very popular Olympic sport. It's an international sport. Do it all over the world. So if we're going to do it on the Isle of Man, should we have a professional one, a big one, with bells and whistles and music and lights and everything? Or should we have this one on the Promenade? Stopping the number 28 bus to Cregneash must not be allowed, says CC775. It's another site of beauty, heritage and history. Port Erin's been ruined by developments, and at Cregneash we can't allow our Manx heritage to be stripped away by a corporate group who play us like a chessboard. I can't wait to remove a bishop. Will they be burning the churches next, says 775. I don't think they go that far, but the 28 bus to Cregneash is, well, it's exciting a lot of comment. If you've got something to say, then do get in touch. Desmond says we used to call them dogfish. Thank you. And there used to be a sea of eels at Balaf Currach's Waterworld, the bird sanctuary, which had to be drained, says Will. They're doing it now. Apparently, this has been going on for days. Surely the Manx Wildlife and Ramsar, I'm sure that what they're doing is illegal. Are they draining the bird sanctuary? Eel pie, mash and liquor, which is like a parsley sauce, was a staple meal in the East End of London, says Sarah. I'd love to know whether anybody actually serves eels on the Isle of Man. Tim's with us now. Hi, Tim.
Good afternoon, Andy. Just want to compliment Manx Care, but in particular the endoscopy department. I went up there yesterday for an endoscopy, never had one before, didn't know what to expect. Lovely, comfortable surroundings. Staff that make you feel very welcome, put you at ease, and procedure done very, very professionally in a spotless theatre. Absolutely can't fault it at all. It was better than any private care.
Well, that's great. And you never had one before?
No, don't want another, but it was what they did was fine. Couldn't criticise it in any way at all. On time, very pleasant. They explained everything that was going to happen, and it went totally smoothly, and walked away with a report in my hand with full details of everything they'd done and advice going forward.
Well,
absolutely perfect.
That's great. Well, we're happy to give bouquets as well as brickbats. Thank you, Tim.
We need to. Thanks, Andy.
Good to hear from you.
Hello, this is Doug Farragher. In conjunction with Manx Radio, I'd like to invite you to join us and learn something about our native Gaelic tongue, the language of man.
Waltons have hundreds of TVs in stock ready to go, from Samsung to LG, here on the island. Plus, a large range of main appliances in stock, including fridge freezers, washing machines, and everything your home will need from all the top brands like Smeg, Samsung, and Hotpoint. With special offers throughout the store and delivery and installation available, check out Waltons on Facebook or waltons.im. Or, even better, visit Waltons in Isle of Man Business Park, opposite Robinson's, for great prices and great service.
Don't miss the B&B Furniture Mega Anniversary Sale. With prices rising elsewhere, B&B is celebrating in style with our anniversary price drop sale, as well as great savings and free accessory vouchers. Look out for our manager specials with up to 45% off and immediate delivery. Plus, everything's available with up to 3 years 0% finance and no deposit to pay. Join the party at B&B Furniture in Snugborough with the Mega Anniversary Sale. Starts this Saturday.
The Loganair September sale is now on. Fly from the Isle of Man and save up to 15% off over 1 million seats across the Loganair network. Book by 6 p.m. on 8th September. Travel from 1st October. Subject to availability, exclusions apply. Visit loganair.co.uk. Use promo code SEPT15. Loganair. Your journey, our joy.
The Ramsey Garden Centre sale is now on, featuring a huge range of garden items at vastly reduced prices. Don't delay. Grab a garden bargain now. There has never been a better time to visit Ramsey Garden Centre. Open 7 days a week on Albert Road, Ramsey.
After another long spell on the road, FC Isle of Man are finally back on home turf this weekend and for one of the biggest games of the season. This Saturday, the Ravens welcome title hopefuls Bury to the Bowl, with hundreds of fans once again expected to travel to Manx Shores for the spectacle. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Mepham for FC Isle of Man vs Bury, kicking off at 6 p.m. this Saturday. Manx Radio will be providing full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
26 minutes before what? Julia's with us now. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Andy. Thank you for having me on Mannin Lines. I suppose the reason why I've rang in today is I wanted to talk about the topic of dyslexia, particularly dyslexia in education.
Okay.
I've set up actually a group called Dyslexia Advocacy Group, IOM, and it's been running probably for maybe about 9 months, and it's been growing in numbers and growing in support, and it's going really well.
And what brought you to it? Why did you set up the group?
I set up the group to have this really careful balance between working in partnership with the Department of Education, Sports and Culture, but at the same time trying to apply gentle pressure really to improve services for children with dyslexia, whether that be, better identification and better provision as well. And, it isn't just dyslexia. We've also tried to, open it up to other neurodiverse conditions too. So it includes dyspraxia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia as well.
Dyscalculia, that's difficulties with numbers, isn't it?
It is. I'm not. I have to admit, I don't know an awful lot of information about dyscalculia, dyspraxia, and dysgraphia. My area that I champion is dyslexia. I feel like I'm an expert in experience because I've got a daughter who has dyslexia. So I know a lot about dyslexia from a parent's perspective, and I can champion that. And I'm always looking for people who have got who are experts by experience in dyscalculia or dyspraxia or dysgraphia, who can champion those, so that we can kind of put our knowledge together and work together, so that we don't have to work in silos and instead, work together.
And what do you want? What do you want to happen?
Well, we did a petition for redress on Tynwald Day, and we submitted it to the Clerk of Tynwald on the 5th of July, asking for better identification and better provision for these population groups. And I signed it, as did 14 other people. So I've been trying to get the public involved because that demonstrates it's of public interest rather than just me. And so I suppose how the public can help is by coming along to our meetings, which is on the first Wednesday of every month at the Family Library. I can't thank the Family Library enough for allowing us to have that venue free of charge so that we can work on this collaboratively.
The Family Library is what, Westmoreland Road, isn't it?
Yes, Westmoreland Road in Douglas. They've been so supportive, and allowed us to use the venue free of charge when they would normally charge for meetings. So I can't thank them enough. And also, to contact we've got a Facebook page, so you can follow the Facebook page. That's called Dyslexia Advocacy Group IOM. And really, because by following it, you might do nothing else other than follow it, but it demonstrates that there is public interest, and that in itself can help. Or likewise, you could contact your local MHK and just, saying, I've seen the work that the Dyslexia Advocacy Group are doing, and I really agree with this. And, because we're doing a presentation to all Tynwald members on the 19th of November, asking for, trying to convince Tynwald members that there is a need for services to be improved for this population group. And so
do you sense that this isn't being taken seriously enough?
Since starting the Dyslexia Advocacy Group, I think that I've had a lot of politicians who are actually really supporting it. So I feel like it's being taken really seriously. I can't thank Rob Callister enough. He's one of the MHKs, Anne Corlett, MHK, Dawn Kinnish, MLC. They've really supported me and given some really active help and really constructive feedback. So I feel like it actually can't be taken seriously enough.
When did you first notice something in your daughter that used to be called word blindness, didn't it, years and years ago, dyslexia?
Yeah, I first noticed it from a very young age, even like 5 years old. I thought something isn't quite right because she couldn't remember the days of the week. She couldn't remember nursery rhymes. She just simply wasn't remembering things. And people would tell me, children like a sponge, they'll learn anything. I'm thinking, my child is not like a sponge. She's not taking things in. It was when she was about 8 years old, when she still hadn't learned to read, and I did so much reading with her. It was not a lack of reading or a lack of her learning to read as well. We did probably more than most people because I knew there was a problem. But it was from 8 years old that I started kind of approaching the school saying, do you think she might have dyslexia? And I was just reassured constantly that no, she's fine. And
when somebody finally diagnosed it, how did you feel?
That a mix of emotions, because one, I was upset because you think there's not enough support on the Isle of Man. You feel completely alone. You don't know how to help her, and so you feel completely alone. And I felt completely responsible, 100% responsible in teaching her how to read. When I know I shouldn't have felt like that, but that's the way it is at the moment. That's how I felt, and that's through my experience. I felt 100% responsible to teaching her how to read, and I'm not a teacher. I'm a parent. But on the other hand, it was such a relief because I was able to say, right, there's a reason why we're struggling. There's a reason why doing homework and reading is really difficult. I was able to explain to my daughter that, because she was thinking that she was stupid. I'm saying, we now know that you're not stupid. We now know there's a very good reason you're dyslexic.
Well, the thing is, it's involuntary. It's basically, they want to learn. They have a normal desire to learn. It's just a condition.
Yeah, and also there's a constellation of strengths and weaknesses. And so now that I knew she was dyslexic, I can say, okay, yes, there's clearly some weaknesses. You find reading difficult, you find comprehension difficult, fluency difficult, working memories you're poor, and so on. There's a whole constellation of weaknesses, but actually there's a whole heap of strengths as well. Dyslexic people are big picture thinkers. They are good problem solvers. They're good communicators. So we were able to kind of find out what are the strengths that people with dyslexia can have, and let's tap into that. And I felt like I was able to be more patient with her because, I now know there's a good reason why you're struggling. So the diagnosis was overall helpful for us at home. But unfortunately, it's not available on the Isle of Man. In order to get a diagnosis, you have to fund it privately and go over to the UK.
How much does it cost, Julia?
I mean, obviously, I imagine it varies. How much it cost me was roughly between £500 and £600, but that's not taking into account the accommodation and the flights and the food that you've got to pay for while you're there. So, and not a lot of people can afford that.
Okay. So, listen, this is the first Wednesday of every month, you say, at the Family Library?
Yeah, the first Wednesday of every month at the Family Library is where we meet.
What time?
5:30.
Okay.
5:30 till about 7 in the evening.
Okay, and the Facebook group is DAG?
Yes, it's a Dyslexia Advocacy Group, IOM, but yes, the abbreviations are DAG.
Okay. We appreciate that, Julia, and thanks for bringing that to our attention. I'm sure that will touch quite a lot of people and give our daughter your very best wishes.
Thank you so much.
Good to hear from you.
Thank you, Andy.
No, not at all. It's 18 minutes before 1, so that's the first Wednesday of every month. The Family Library, 5:30 for the Dyslexia Advocacy Group on the Isle of Man.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
Coming up, we have another winning weekend here on Manx Radio. And this time we've teamed up with Miller Chaps to give you the chance to win a £200 voucher to spend in store. All you have to do is listen out for our winning question, which we'll ask on air right across the weekend. And once you've heard it, text your answer to 166 177. Miller Chaps offer everything for your home with over 40 top brands. They've also expanded their stressless and temper collections, perfect for upgrading your space before winter. You'll find them in Parliament Street in Ramsey. Make this your winning weekend with Miller Chaps and your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Look at that time, 17 minutes to 1. Vivian's on now. Hi, Vivian.
Hiya. You're talking about dyslexia.
Yeah.
My youngest son is dyslexic. It doesn't stop you getting on in the world. When he was at school, dyslexia wasn't even known about. And when Anne Collister came to the island, she was special needs. He and his mate had half an hour a week or a fortnight, I can't remember now. That's all they got, and they went off to the grammar school, and nobody wanted to know. And that's how they went through school. But it hasn't stopped my son getting on because he was determined to do something.
How did he cope at school? Was anything said, Vivian?
They didn't really want to know. And he just had to get on with it.
But it didn't grind him down?
No, not now it hasn't. He's an assistant manager in the building company.
That's interesting. And how long ago was this?
Well, let's say he's in his early 50s now.
Oh, I see, right, okay.
But I don't think things have improved, actually. They might have all these groups and this, that and the other, but it has to start at home. Helping people. That's my opinion, and I'm getting old and all the rest of it, but he can do anything that anybody else can do.
And when did the word dyslexia appear to him then? I mean, initially that wouldn't have been mentioned.
Well, I can't remember, but there was somebody came to QE2 school, somebody off the television, and they set up a dyslexia group there. That's when it all, but that was a lot later. But that's where it all started from.
Okay. All right, Vivian, we appreciate that. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Bye.
Note in from Desmond, who said, I had dyslexia, used to drive the boat. I had a hell of a time working out left from right or port from starboard, even with numbers. I used to start with the middle number out of 3. The captains looked at me and worked out it couldn't be 100 degrees out. Thank you for that. And also, that's put me right off my fish and chips. Talking about eels and dogfish. Yes, the architects are going overboard with the skate park. You say, well, you can have a chat to all the people responsible later on this week. Freshwater eel tastes like chicken if you fry it, says Suggy. Dogfish was also used in the chip shop. No bones. I'd love to know where dogfish was ever sold on the Isle of Man. Here's a message in that just says, I don't think this rubbish is going to be maintained. This is the skate park that's proposed for Douglas. And a message in also just to say, only people born on the Isle of Man should say what happens on the prom, says Big Roy. I see. Why not fill the gardens in and use them for parking and charge Manx people to park there? It's very simple, says Fred. Make some money out of it as well. Didn't Douglas already have a skate park in the old Villiers site years and years ago? Why not repurpose that site again rather than removing gardens? Actually, thank you for that 475. It prompts me, it wasn't actually an official skateboard park. It was what they used to call the water feature. Do you remember that? At the back of the old Royal Bank of Scotland, they had a water feature. It was supposed to be a sort of town park. Except the water feature ran out of water, went rusty. It looked very nice. It looked like a Banksy in the end. But they were repurposing the water park, the little park there, the water feature, and skateboarding on that. So they did it themselves. Maybe the skate park on the prom is for the cruise ship passengers to entertain themselves while they wait for the horse tram before it reaches the sea terminal, says Will. It could be. It's going to be the hottest day on Friday, but not on the Isle of Man. Here we go, says Maxwell. What on earth is happening? I think it's what they call weather, isn't it? Noble skate park's a death trap. Cracky, no. 100 says, in desperate need of renovation. The kids won't use it because of how poor it is. Bratton Skate Park is great, but hard to access if you don't drive. So I'm all for a skate park on Douglas Promenade. Here's a message in from Muriel, who says, never mind the skate park, why don't they put some new playground equipment in the children's playground in Nobles Park? Half of it is rusting away. I had mine too, my endoscopy in a spotless theatre, says 376. Thank you for that. Soon I expect the government's going to be trumpeting cheap green electricity to help attract new businesses needed for all the new residents, says 313. I've decided to take up skateboarding on the promenade. Tony Hawk 2.0 incoming, says Jason. You'll look very nice, Jason. I'm sure you will. And here's a message. Oh, it's Grace. Hi, Grace.
Hello. I just phoned you because I don't know who else to speak to. I was walking on the prom this morning with the dog, and I was talking to some lovely visitors who are staying at the Empress. And they were telling me about the difficulties that they were having getting onto the bus and getting onto the horse tram. Because what's happened is, with the new sea wall, that they've altered the fencing and they've made the walkway very narrow for them to walk through. Somebody had one of the visitors had a nasty fall. Ended up having to be taken to hospital and ended up in A&E, smashed all the side of his head, got stitches. And most of them were with sticks because they're pensioners. So it's just that walkway. It's very slippy because of the sand, so that all needs to be cleared up. But the fencing, the metal fencing, has really been narrowed. It's narrowed the pathway where you get onto the actual horse tram.
Yeah, this is by that little chicane where the road bends round, isn't it? Where the horse trams finish.
Yeah. And the reason it's been narrowed that way is because they've got a huge digger, and the digger's just sat there. It's not doing anything. But opposite the Grosvenor, the walkway gap is fine. But once you pass the Grosvenor on the promenade side, they've had to alter it to accommodate that digger. So I'm just saying that these lovely visitors have come over and they've had a terrible fall. It needs to be swept. It needs, the sand needs to be removed because people are going to hurt themselves again. And they are pensioners. And
you would have thought that somebody would have thought that through. I mean, making it narrow. I mean, surely that would you'd suddenly think, well, there are going to be people walking through there. You need to make it as wide as possible.
Exactly, and if where the horse tram traffic lights are, where the cars have to stop, they've got those pointed stones, haven't they, on the pavement side, and you can't walk on them. So people have got nowhere to walk except that little pathway, which has actually been narrowed. And I noticed this morning there were a couple of buggies from the nursery, and there was two ladies with two double buggies, and they just made it through. But everybody had to scramble onto the horse tram line so they could get past. So I don't know. I wonder if they could just move it a couple of foot more towards the wall. And move that digger, because that digger's just sat there. It's not doing anything.
Okay, all right. Grace, we appreciate that. Thanks for cluing us into that.
All right, take care.
Good to hear from you. Thank you, Grace. And Frank's on. Hi, Frank.
Hi, Andy. How you doing, mate?
Very well, thanks. Yeah, good.
Right, I just... because I'm one of the old crew, it's 59 years since I first started on Manx Radio. I just want to wish you a very happy birthday, 60th birthday.
Wow, 60 years. There aren't many radio stations that are 60 years old. In fact, I think Manx Radio, it's the oldest radio station in the British Isles.
Yeah. And, of course, being one of the old crew, from 59 years ago.
Well, of course, you did some stuff with Don Allen, didn't you, Frank?
I did, yeah. Don Allen, and, of course, George. He was young. He was 21. He was, George Ferguson.
He's still 21.
Yeah. In his head, yeah. But he's still going strong, so he's all right. The other thing I wanted to mention, I was driving along Jurby Road a couple of days ago, going towards Killane, and this little animal ran across the road, and it was about 12 inches long, and I'd swear to God it was either a mink, either a stoat or something like that. It was shiny black with very tiny little legs, and it sort of scurried across the road but didn't go too fast, so I got a good look at it. And I couldn't figure out what it wasn't a polecat, and it wasn't a long tail.
And how long was it? What was the size?
About 12 inches.
Wow. I wonder what that would be.
I've no idea. If anybody can sort of put me wise, I know quite a lot about wild stuff, and like you were talking about the catching the eels.
Yeah.
Congers. I've eaten conger, and I used to catch them when I was in the Navy, and we used to eat them, and beautiful. It tastes great.
How do you cook them?
Just fry it. That's all I did. Just cut it in steaks and fried it. Beautiful.
All right. Okay.
And I've caught an odd one in Douglas and that, when I've been fishing, and in Peel. But I don't do that anymore, so... But anyway, all the best.
Good to hear from you, Frank. Well, all right, we'll catch up soon. Thanks for being with us today. My granddaughter's got spelling dyslexia, so I'm going to look up that group on Facebook, says Sue. DAG, Dyslexia Action Group, DAG, Isle of Man, and that meeting is the first Wednesday of every month at the family library. Skateboarding is an Olympic sport. So is archery, but I don't want anybody firing arrows on the prom, says Paul. Well, as long as they point outwards, not inwards. Just listening to that lady talking about dyslexia, I'm 57, suffer with this badly and can be very frustrating at times. A big help for me was word search books. Sounds daft, says Tomo, but helped me massively with spelling and saying and pronouncing words. Thank you, Tomo. It's good to hear from you. Word search for dyslexia. I've listened to many callers making reference to the land the government owns in Douglas that's lying empty and should be built on. What about the reality of the situation is the longer they lie empty, the more land increases in value. So is there a method in their madness, says Big John in Ramsey. My son, who's 15, was diagnosed in reception yesterday with dyslexia at Balakotia School. And my son says WhatsApper 517 was diagnosed with dyslexia 12 years ago. We always told him he could do anything he wants to, and that wasn't going to affect him. He went to school, did his A-levels, passed his driving test first time, including theory test. Now he's got a wonderful job that he loves. And I never once heard him use dyslexia as an excuse. So let's tell our children what they can do, not what they can't. A positive attitude is really important, particularly with something like dyslexia. Thanks for that. Our son was diagnosed with dyslexia 12 years ago. I've no idea that we have many friends who have children that have been diagnosed on the Isle of Man. We didn't have to go away for a diagnosis, so I don't know why people are going away for a diagnosis now.
Hi, it's Connor Cummins here. I'd just like to wish Manx Radio a very happy 60th birthday.
If the skate park happens, obviously it'll be used in summer months. The winter's shocking, especially on the Promenade, with wave breaking over on the wind. So it's a waste of ratepayers, taxpayers' money. Nice lunchtime in the peaceful sunken gardens with the sounds of a skateboard park, says John. It was a polecat, says Texter 376 Frank. Apparently it was a polecat. Is that true? Polecats in Jurby, a black polecat, says John on 557. Skate park concrete ramps will blend in with the aesthetics of the shabby prom, seawall and Douglas City in general, says 313G. That's it. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Back tomorrow, Friday open line.
WINT.